The stars belonged to them, and they made sure everyone knew it. Emperor Vexthalin stood on the highest balcony of his palace, looking out at the endless city that covered his home planet. Buildings made of crystal and light stretched beyond. The horizon, ships that glowed like small suns, moved between the towers. Everything sparkled and shined under the light of 3 different stars. On his head sat a crown that was not made of gold or jewels. It was made from the compressed heart of a dead star. The crown glowed with its own light and whispered secrets of the universe into his mind. It gave him power over thoughts and time itself. It made him nearly immortal. Vexthalin had worn this crown for 8,000 years. His father had worn it for 6,000 years before him. The Zephyrian dynasty had ruled the galaxy for longer than most species had existed. "My lord," came a voice behind him. General Quintessa walked onto the balcony, her own smaller crown, casting rainbow patterns on the walls. Like all Zephyrians, her skin was pale as moonlight and seemed to glow from within. She was tall and thin, with long fingers that moved like they were underwater. "The tribute ships have arrived from the outer systems," she said, bowing her head just enough to show respect. Vexthalin did not turn around. He could feel her thoughts without looking. The crown on his head connected him to every other crown. Zephyrian in the Empire. Their minds formed a web that stretched across 12,000 star systems. "How much this time?" he asked. 700 ships loaded with rare metals. 300 ships carrying food and water. 50 ships full of art and music from the subject worlds. The Emperor nodded. It was always the same. Every year, the lesser species brought gifts to show they remembered who ruled them. They had no choice. The crowns made sure of that. "Any problems?" he asked. The Kelvins on Sigma 7 tried to hide some of their crystal minds. We reminded them why that was not wise. They will send double tribute next year. Vexthalin smiled. The smile was cold and sharp. "Good. What of the exploration fleets?" Admiral Zarthik reports from the Spiral Arm. 12 new worlds found. All of them primitive. One has creatures that walk on 2 legs and make fire, but they barely count as intelligent. The Admiral did not even bother to land. Wise of him. "We have enough subjects already." The Emperor finally turned around. His eyes were like diamonds, clear and hard. Looking into them was like staring into deep space. "How goes the construction?" "Of the new Star Forge?" "On schedule, my lord. The engineers say it will be ready in 50 years. When it is finished, we will be able to make 3 more star crowns." "Excellent. My sons will need crowns when they come of age." General Quintessa hesitated. The Emperor felt her uncertainty through their mental link before she spoke. "My lord, some of the outer governors have sent reports. Strange ones?" "Explain." "Several species have begun asking questions about our rule. Nothing serious yet, but they wonder why we deserve to command them. The governors have crushed these thoughts, but they keep appearing." Vexthalin laughed. The sound echoed off the crystal walls like breaking glass. 10,000 years of peace, and they wonder why we rule. We rule because we are superior. We rule because the universe chose us to wear the crowns. We rule because no one else can. "Of course, my lord. Send a message to all the governors. Any world that questions our authority will have its tribute doubled. Any individual who speaks against us will be brought here for re-education." "It will be done." The general left him alone on the balcony. Vexthalin returned to watching his perfect city. Everything in it existed because he allowed it to exist. Every light shined because he gave it permission. Every being lived because he decided they could live not far below. In the lower levels of the city, other beings moved about their daily lives. Some were Zephyrians without crowns, nobles and workers who served the royal family. Others were aliens from a dozen different worlds, all here to serve the Empire in some way. None of them looked up at the Emperor on his high balcony. They knew better than to stare at the sun. The Emperor's crown pulsed gently, connecting him to the vast network of crowned rulers across the galaxy. He could feel Admiral Zarthik commanding a fleet near the Rim worlds. He could sense Governor Meltara managing the tribute collection from the industrial sectors. He could touch the minds of 300 other crowned Zephyrians, all working together to keep the Empire running smoothly. It was perfect. It was eternal. It was exactly as it should be. In a small room deep inside the palace, a young Zephyrian named Kexelan studied reports from the outer regions. Unlike the others, he had no crown. He was too young, not yet proven worthy of the honor. But someday, if he served well, he might earn one. The reports were boring. Production numbers from mining worlds, population counts from agricultural planets, trade route efficiency statistics, all the tiny details that kept an empire of 12,000 worlds functioning. One report caught his attention. It came from Admiral Zarthik's exploration fleet. The Admiral had mentioned finding primitive two-legged creatures on a small blue world. The report said they had discovered fire and were beginning to form organized groups. Kexelan almost threw the report away. Such primitive beings were hardly worth noting. But something made him read it again. The creatures, called humans by the science teams, showed unusual behavior. They fought each other constantly, but they also worked together in ways that surprised the observers. They adapted to new situations quickly. They seemed to learn faster than most species. Still, they were just primitives. They had not even reached their own moon yet. They would probably destroy themselves with wars before they ever left their planet. Most species did. Kexelan filed the report and moved on to more important matters. On the Blue World report mentioned a human named Dan Brown sat by a fire outside his cave. He looked up at the night sky and wondered about the lights he saw there. Were there other people on those distant points of light? Were there beings like him, sitting by their own fires and looking back? He could not know that far above him, ships with the power of stars moved between the worlds he wondered about. He could not imagine that somewhere among those lights, beings with crowns of compressed starlight ruled over thousands of species. Dan Brown was just a hunter and a dreamer. His people had recently learned to make tools from metal and to plant crops instead of just gathering wild food. They thought they were the smartest beings in existence. If he had known about the Zephyrian Empire, Dan Brown might have felt small and helpless. He might have wondered how his simple people could ever matter in a universe ruled by godlike beings with star crowns. But Dan Brown did not know about any of that. He only knew that the stars were beautiful and mysterious. He only knew that somewhere out there, amazing things were waiting to be discovered. He poked at his fire with a stick and watched the sparks fly up toward the stars. Someday, he thought, people would travel to those lights. Someday, they would find out what was really out there. It was a nice dream. Far above him, the Zephyrian ships continued their patrol routes, keeping watch over an empire that had never known defeat. Their crews wore smaller versions of the star crowns, each one connected to the great web of power that held everything together. None of them looked down at the small blue world. It was not important enough to notice. The empire was eternal. Crowns were forever. Nothing would ever change that. Nothing could. 2,000 years had passed since Dan Brown looked up at the stars from his cave. His descendants had done more than just dream about reaching those distant lights. They had built ships that could travel faster than light itself. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human exploration ship New Horizon. Through the main window, he could see a planet that his crew had never seen before. It was purple and silver, with rings of ice crystals spinning around it. beautiful but empty of life. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station, "we're picking up something strange. Large ships heading this way. Really large." Jake moved to look at her screen. 5 dots were moving toward them, growing bigger with each second. As they got closer, the human computers tried to figure out how big they were. "Sir," Amy said, her voice getting higher, "those ships are each about 10 miles long." Jake felt his stomach drop. Human ships were big, but not that big. The New Horizon was only half a mile from front to back, and it was one of their largest. Exploration vessels. How many people could those ships hold? Asked Navigation Officer Ben Rodriguez. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands each. The alien ships moved like they owned the space around them. They did not hurry or seem worried about the small human vessel. They just came forward slowly, like they were taking a casual walk. "Captain," said Communications Officer Lisa Carter, "I'm getting a signal from them. It's not in any language we know, but the computer is trying to translate. Put it through." A voice filled the bridge. It sounded like wind chimes mixed with the sound of breaking ice, beautiful but cold. When the computer finished translating, the words were clear and simple. "Small vessel, you will shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You will kneel before the representatives of the Zephyrian Star Empire. You will surrender your ship and your lives to the will of the Eternal Dynasty." The bridge went quiet. Jake looked around at his crew. They had all hoped to find other intelligent life among the stars, but none of them had expected to find life. They had immediately demanded they surrender. "Send a reply," Jake said. "Tell them we are peaceful explorers from Earth. Tell them we come in friendship." Lisa worked at her controls for a minute, then nodded. "Message sent, sir." They waited. The alien ships kept getting closer. Finally, another message came through. "Your words mean nothing. All beings serve the Empire. You will comply or be destroyed." This is not a request. Jake felt anger building in his chest. His grandparents had fought wars to free their people from those who demanded blind obedience. His parents had died defending human colonies from pirates who thought they could take whatever they wanted. He had not come to the stars to kneel before new masters. "Send this message," he told Lisa. "We are free people. We do not kneel to anyone. If you want our ship, you'll have to take it." "Sir," Ben said quietly, "those ships could probably destroy us without even slowing down." "Maybe, but I won't hand over my crew and my ship just because someone tells me to." The alien response came quickly. This time it sounded angry. "You dare refuse the Zephyrian Empire? We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Every species knows to bow before. U.S., your defiance will be corrected." One of the massive alien ships moved ahead of the others. Lights began to glow along its sides. The human sensors screamed warnings about energy buildup. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake shouted. "All power to shields." The New Horizon turned hard too. The left just as a beam of pure white light shot through the space where they had been. The beam was so bright that it hurt to look at, even on the screen. Where it passed, small asteroids simply disappeared, turned to dust by its power. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The human ship's weapons were simple compared to the alien beam. Missiles and laser cannons. But they hit the alien ship and left black marks on its silver hull. "We actually heard it," Amy said, surprised. The alien ship fired again. This time, the beam clipped the New Horizon's rear section. Alarms screamed as systems failed. The lights on the bridge flickered. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Lisa. "We're losing air and power." "Sir," Ben said, "2 more alien ships are moving to cut off our escape route." Jake looked at the tactical display. The aliens were surrounding them. moving in a pattern that seemed almost lazy, like they were not worried about the human ship at all. Why aren't they trying harder? He wondered out loud. Maybe they don't want to completely destroy us, Amy suggested. Maybe they want to capture us alive. Another alien message came through. This time the voice sounded frustrated. Cease your resistance. You cannot win. Submit to the Empire, and your deaths will be quick. Jake noticed something strange in the alien's voice. Behind the cold authority, he heard something that sounded almost like confusion. These aliens were used to getting immediate surrender. They expected every species to give up the moment they showed their power. Lisa, can you jury-rig the engines to overload? Sir, that would destroy the ship. Not completely. Just make them burn really hot for about 30 seconds. Lisa looked confused, but started working at her controls. It'll take a few minutes. The alien ships kept firing, but they seemed to be aiming to disable rather than destroy. Their beams hit the New Horizons' weapons and engines, but they avoided the crew sections. Captain, Amy called out, I'm reading something weird about their energy patterns. Those beams they're firing follow really predictable paths, like they're not used to targets that dodge. Jake thought about that. Maybe they've been fighting species that don't fight back. Ready for engine overload, Lisa announced. Do it. Full burn toward the biggest ship. The New Horizons suddenly shot forward faster than it had ever moved before. The engines roared, like caged beasts as they pushed far beyond their normal limits. The alien ship seemed surprised by the sudden acceleration. They're trying to get a target lock on us, Amy said, but we're moving too fast and too unpredictably. The human ship headed straight for the largest alien vessel. At the last second, Jake ordered Lisa to shut down the overloaded engines. The New Horizon shot past the alien ship's hull, so close that Jake could see details of its construction through the bridge window's dot. The alien ship tried to turn and follow, but it was massive and slow, like a whale trying to chase a dolphin. Jump to faster than light speed, Jake ordered. Get us out of here. Where to, sir? Home. We need to warn Earth. As the New Horizon disappeared into faster than light travel, Jake thought about what they had learned. The aliens were powerful, but they were also arrogant. They expected easy victories. They were not used to enemies who fought back with creativity and desperation. On the largest alien ship, Fleet Commander Quantessa stared at the empty space where the human vessel had been. In 800 years of service to the Empire, she had never seen anything like this. Every species they encountered either surrendered immediately or died quickly. No one had ever refused their demands and then escaped. No one had ever attacked a Zephyrian ship and lived to tell about it. She touched the small crown on her head, connecting her mind to the Emperor's vast network. She needed to report this strange encounter. But what would she say? That a tiny ship full of unknown aliens had defied the Empire and escaped? That their psychic commands had not worked? That these creatures seemed immune to the fear that controlled every other species? For the first time in centuries, Quintessa felt something she had almost forgotten. Uncertainty. On the bridge of the New Horizon, Jake Morrison looked at the stars ahead of them and knew that humanity's quiet time among the stars was over. They had found other life in the universe, and that life wanted to rule them. But they had also learned something important. The masters of the galaxy could be hurt. They could be surprised. They could be beaten. At least sometimes. Jake smiled grimly. His species had always been good at fighting impossible odds. It looked like they were going to get another chance to prove it. The news from Captain Jake Morrison's mission hit Earth like a bomb. For the first time in human history, every nation on the planet stopped fighting each other and worked together. Presidents and prime ministers who had been enemies the day before now sat at the same table, planning for a war they all knew was coming. General Kate Phillips stood in front of a room full of world leaders. Behind her, a giant screen showed images from the New Horizons encounter with the alien ships. The massive vessels looked like floating cities next to the tiny human ship. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kate said, "we are facing an enemy that has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They have technology we can barely understand. They command thousands of worlds and billions of soldiers." The room was silent. Everyone understood how bad this was. "However," Kate continued, "Captain Morrison's report shows us that they can be hurt. They can be surprised. Most importantly, they are not used to fighting enemies who refuse to surrender." President Angela Davis of the North American Federation raised her hand. "General, what are our chances?" Kate looked straight at her. "If we fight them the way they expect us to fight, we have no chance at all. But if we fight them like humans have always fought, using everything we have and everything we can think of, then maybe we can survive." In the months that followed, Earth became a giant factory. Every shipyard worked day and night building new warships. Scientists studied the data from the New Horizon, trying to understand alien technology. Soldiers trained for battles in space and on distant worlds. Dr. Alex Turner led a team of the smartest people on Earth. They had pieces of alien hull material that Jake's crew had collected when they scraped past the enemy ship. The metal was unlike anything humans had ever seen. "It's not just strong," Alex told his team. "It repairs itself. Watch this." He hit a piece of the alien metal with a hammer. The dent filled itself in within seconds, like the metal was alive. "How do we fight ships made of this stuff?" asked Dr. Nancy Kim. "We figure out what makes it work, and then we figure out how to stop it." While the scientists worked, General Kate Phillips met with military leaders from around the world. Admiral Ben Rodriguez had been promoted after his experience with the First Contact. Colonel Ryan Hayes specialized in fighting enemies with better weapons and more soldiers. "The aliens will expect us to meet them in big space battles," Ryan said. "Ship against ship, like old naval wars. That's how they've always fought. So we don't do that," Kate replied. "We hit them where they don't expect it. We run when they chase us. We make them fight our kind of war, not theirs." Admiral Ben nodded. "Our ships are smaller and faster. We can't match their firepower, but we can be where they don't expect us to be." 3 years after First Contact, the aliens came. Prince Zar Theek led the Zephyrian fleet that entered Earth's solar system. He commanded 50 of the Empire's mighty starships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. To him, this was not really a war. It was pest control. 50 ships to destroy one primitive world, he said to his second-in-command. "The Emperor is being generous. I could do this with 10. Commander Feltara looked at the tactical displays. "My lord, our scouts report unusual activity around their home planet. Many small ships moving in strange patterns. Panicked refugees trying to escape. Let them run. We will hunt them down later." But the human ships were not running away. Admiral Ben Rodriguez watched the alien fleet from the bridge of his new command ship, the Defiance. Around him, 200 human vessels waited in the shadow of Jupiter's moons. "Remember," Ben told his captains over the radio, "we don't try to fight them head-on. We sting them and run. We make them angry and confused. We make them make mistakes." The Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth in a perfect formation. They had done this same attack pattern for thousands of years. It always worked. The first human ships appeared behind them, coming out from asteroid hiding spots. The aliens turned to face this new threat, but the human ships were already gone, diving behind planets and moons. "What are they doing?" "Prince," Zarthik demanded. "Unknown, my lord. They appear and disappear too quickly for us to target them effectively." Captain Lisa Carter commanded one of the small human attack ships. Her job was to get close to an alien vessel, fire everything she had, and then run before they could shoot back. It was dangerous and desperate, but it was working. Her ship, the Hornet, came out of hiding behind an asteroid and fired 6 missiles at the nearest alien ship. The missiles were not powerful enough to seriously damage the giant vessel, but they made bright explosions against its hull. "Target acquired us," her weapons officer reported. "They're charging their main gun." "Already gone," Lisa said, diving her ship back into the asteroid field. The alien beam weapon fired at empty space. This happened again and again. Human ships would appear, attack, and vanish before the aliens could respond. The Zephyrians had never fought an enemy that refused to stand still, can fight properly. Enough of this, Prince Zarthik decided. All ships advance to the primitive planet. Ignore the small ships. We will destroy their world and end this foolishness. But when the alien fleet reached Earth, they found more surprises waiting. Dr. Alex Turner had spent 3 years studying alien technology, and he had learned some important things. Their ships use stars for power, he had told General Kate, but that means they give off very specific energy patterns. We can predict exactly where their weapons will fire. The defenses around Earth were not like anything the aliens had seen before. Instead of trying to build bigger guns, humans had built smarter defenses. Networks of small satellites that could calculate where alien weapons would strike and move important targets out of the way at the last second. Prince Zarthik fired his main guns at Earth cities. The beams hit empty air. The targets had moved just enough to avoid destruction. "Impossible," the prince said. "How do they know where we will fire?" "My lord," Commander Feltara said nervously, "perhaps these humans are more advanced than we thought. They are primitives with primitive ships. We will simply fire more weapons." But the more the aliens fired, the better the human defenses got. The computer systems Dr. Alex had built learned from each attack, getting better at predicting and avoiding the alien weapons. Meanwhile, Colonel Ryan Hayes led ground forces preparing for alien landing parties. The Zephyrians had always conquered worlds by landing troops and taking control of cities. Ryan had studied their tactics and prepared. Surprises. When the first alien soldiers came down in their landing craft, they expected terrified civilians and quick surrender. Instead, they found empty cities full of traps. Buildings exploded when alien troops entered them. Roads collapsed under the weight of alien vehicles. Bridges fell down just as alien armies tried to cross them. Major Amy Foster commanded a group of human soldiers who specialized in fighting in the ruins of cities. When alien troops tried to establish a base in what used to be Chicago, Amy's people were waiting. "They're big and strong," she told her soldiers, "but they move like they expect everyone to run away from them. So we don't run. We hide, we wait, and we hit them when they're not looking." The battle for Earth lasted 6 months. Prince Zarthik had expected to conquer the planet in 6 days. His perfect ships were being worn down by thousands of small attacks. His proud soldiers were being killed by traps and ambushes. Worst of all, the primitive humans were learning. Every day they got better at fighting. Every day they found new ways to hurt the mighty Zephyrian forces. For the first time in his long life, Prince Zarthik began to understand that this war might not end the way he expected. On Earth, humans celebrated small victories and mourned heavy losses. But they did not give up. They could not give up. This was their home, and they would fight for it until the last human was dead. The war had only just begun. 5 years had passed since the war began. What started as a simple conquest had become the worst crisis the Zephyrian Empire had ever faced. Emperor Vexthalen stood in his throne room, listening to reports It would have been impossible to believe just a few years ago. My lord, General Quintessa said, her voice tight with worry. 3 more systems have declared independence. The Kelvin worlds, the Rigel colonies, and the entire Tau sector. How many does that make? The Emperor asked. 47 systems have stopped sending tribute. 12 have openly joined the Human Alliance. The rest are waiting to see what happens. Next, Emperor Vexthalin felt something he had not experienced in 8,000 years of rule. Fear, not fear of death, for his star crown made him nearly immortal. Fear that his empire was crumbling. How can primitives from one small world cause this much damage? They fight differently than anyone we have ever faced, Quintessa explained. They refuse to surrender when they should. They turn our own strength against us, and worst of all, they inspire others to resist. The Emperor touched his star crown, feeling the network of minds connected across the galaxy. But the network was smaller now. Many crowned governors had fallen in battle. Others had gone silent, cut off by human raids on their communication systems. What news from Prince Zarthik? Quintessa hesitated. The prince has not reported for 3 weeks, my lord. His last message said he was pursuing human forces into the Outer Rim. Far from the imperial capital, Admiral Kelly Torres commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. Her ships had grown in number and power over the Ve. Years of war. What had started as desperate raids with converted civilian ships had become a proper navy. Admiral, Captain Nick Davis called from his ship, the Freedom's Edge. We have the alien supply convoy in sight. 50 cargo ships with only 10 escorts. Kelly smiled. The aliens still fought like an empire that had never been seriously challenged. They sent huge, slow cargo ships with small guards, expecting no one would dare attack them. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Hit the escorts first, then disable the cargo ships. We want those supplies. The human fleet split into 3 groups. One group attacked from above, one from below, and one from the side. The Zephyrian escorts tried to respond, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Captain Lisa Carter, now commanding her own ship, dove her vessel through the middle of the alien formation. Her crew had become experts at the kind of close range fighting that terrified the aliens. Fire everything, she ordered. Missiles and laser beams struck the nearest alien escort. The ship's hull began to crack and burn. Within minutes, it was drifting dead in space. Cargo ships are trying to run, reported Lieutenant Steve Brooks from the scanning station. Let them try, Kelly said. They're too slow and too big. We'll catch them. One by one, the human ships disabled the alien cargo vessels. When the battle was over, they had captured enough supplies to feed and arm human forces for months. But Kelly had learned to do more than just steal supplies. She had learned to use the aliens' own psychology against them. Send a message to all the alien crews. She told her communications officer, tell them they're free to go. Tell them the Human Alliance does not keep slaves. It was a simple message, but it would spread throughout the Empire. Alien soldiers would hear that humans treated prisoners with kindness instead of cruelty. Some would begin to wonder why they were fighting for masters who ruled through fear. On the planet New Geneva, Colonel Ryan Hayes faced his biggest challenge yet. A full Zephyrian army had landed on the human colony world. 20,000 alien soldiers with heavy weapons and air support. Ryan had only 3,000 human defenders, but he had spent years learning how to fight impossible odds. Remember, he told his officers, they expect us to meet them in open battle. They expect us to defend the cities. So we do the opposite. The human forces abandoned the main cities and spread out into the forests and mountains. When the alien army arrived at the empty capital city, they found only booby traps and recorded messages. Welcome to New Geneva, said the voice from hidden speakers. "If you want this planet, you'll have to earn it." Major Amy Foster led a company of soldiers who specialized in what humans called guerrilla warfare. They hit alien patrols and supply. Lines then disappeared into the wilderness before the enemy could respond. "Squad leaders," Amy said over the radio, "remember the plan. We make them afraid to leave their bases. We make them jump at shadows. We make them wish they had never heard of humans." The war in the forests of New Geneva became a nightmare for the Zephyrian forces. They had weapons that could level mountains, but they could not find enemies who refused to stand still and fight. Every day brought new attacks from unexpected directions. Every night brought sabotage and terror. Commander Vel Thorne, leading the alien ground forces, sent increasingly desperate messages back to his superiors. "The humans are everywhere and nowhere," he reported. "We control the cities, but we cannot move between them safely. Our supply lines are under constant attack. Morale among the troops is falling." Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Williams had made the breakthrough that would change everything. In her laboratory deep under the Rocky Mountains, she had finally solved the puzzle of the alien star crowns. "I've got it," she told Dr. Alex Turner. "The crowns work by creating a specific type of electromagnetic field. The field connects the wearer to stellar energy and to other crown wearers. Can we block it? Better than that. We can disrupt it. If we hit a crown with the right kind of electromagnetic pulse, it will not just stop working. It will overload and burn out permanently." Dr. Alex stared at the data on her screen. "You're talking about a weapon that could strip the aliens of their main advantage." "Exactly. Without their crowns, they're just tall, pale beings with good technology. Still dangerous, but not gods." Engineer Rob Clark was put in charge of building the new weapons. He designed them to fit on human ships and in human soldiers' equipment. They looked simple, like metal boxes with antennas, but they carried the power to bring down an empire. "We call them crown breakers," Rob explained to Admiral Kelly Torres. "Point one at an alien leader and pull the trigger. Their crown stops working forever." Kelly looked at the weapon with wonder. "How long before we can mass produce these?" 6 months for the first batch. A year to equip the entire fleet. Back on the imperial capital, Emperor Vex Thalen received the worst news yet. His son, Prince Zarthik, was dead. The prince's fleet had been destroyed in a battle with human forces near the Titan colonies. "How?" the emperor asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The humans used new tactics," General Quintessa reported. "They mounted weapons on asteroids and turned them into giant guns. Prince Zarthik's ships were caught in a crossfire they could not escape. The emperor felt the loss through his crown network. One of the brightest minds in the empire, gone forever. His own son, killed by primitives who should have been crushed years ago. My lord," Quintessa said carefully, "some of the governors are suggesting that we negotiate with the humans. Perhaps we could offer them a place in the empire as equals." Emperor Vex Thalen turned to face her, his diamond eyes blazing with fury. "Equals? We are the children of stars. We have ruled the galaxy since before their species learned to make fire. We do not negotiate with insects. But my lord, the war is spreading. More worlds rebel every day. Our fleets are being worn down by endless battles. Perhaps it would be wise to consider silence." The emperor's crown flared with light. "Recall every ship. Summon every army. We will end this war by destroying their home world completely. Nothing will remain of the human species but dust and memory." General Quintessa bowed her head, but in her heart she wondered if it was already too late. The humans had done something no enemy had ever managed. They had made the eternal empire doubt itself, and doubt, once started, was very hard to stop. The final battle began when every Zephyrian ship in the galaxy converged on their home. World of Lumina Prime. Emperor Vexthalen had called back his entire fleet, abandoning conquered worlds to defend the heart of his empire. 3,000 starships surrounded the crystal planet, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted from his first encounter years ago, led the human alliance fleet toward the enemy capital. Behind him came ships from dozens of worlds that had joined the fight against the Empire. Humans, Kelvins, Rigelians, and many others who had decided they would rather die free than live as slaves. All ships, Jake announced over the radio, this is it. Win or lose, this ends today. The human fleet was smaller than the enemy force, but Jake had advantages the Emperor did not expect. Every human ship carried the new Crownbreaker weapons that Dr. Sarah Williams had designed. More importantly, they carried something the Zephyrians had forgotten existed, the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom. Captain Lisa Carter commanded the strike force that would try to break through the alien defenses. Her ship now, called the Starbreaker, led 50 of the fastest human vessels toward the planet's surface. Remember, she told her pilots, we're not trying to win a space battle. We're trying to get General Kate Phillips and her ground forces to the planet. Once they're down there with the Crownbreakers, this war is over. The space battle that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Beams of stellar energy crossed paths with human missiles. Ships the size of cities exploded like dying. Suns. The darkness between the stars lit up with the fire of 1,000 battles. Admiral Kelly Torres commanded the main human fleet, using every trick she had learned in 5 years of war. Her ships moved in patterns that confused the alien commanders. They struck from multiple directions at once, making it impossible for the enemy to focus their overwhelming firepower. Their formation is breaking up, reported Captain Nick Davis from his position on the fleet's right wing. They're not used to enemies who fight back this hard. But the battle was costing both sides dearly. Human ships, smaller and less heavily armed, were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. The aliens were taking losses too, but they had many more ships to lose. On the surface of Lumina Prime, Emperor Vexthalen watched the battle from his crystal palace. For the first time in 10,000 years, enemy ships were in the skies above his capital world. The sight filled him with rage that burned like a dying star. How can this be happening? He demanded of General Quintessa. We have ruled the galaxy since before these creatures existed. How can they challenge us here, in our very home? Quintessa had no answer. She had watched the Empire crumble piece by piece, and she was beginning to understand that the humans represented something the Zephyrians had never faced before. They represented change. My lord, she said carefully, perhaps we should consider evacuation. If the planet falls, this planet will not fall, the Emperor roared. I will die before I let primitives set foot on the world of my ancestors. High, above them, General Kate Phillips was about to prove him wrong. Her transport ship, protected by Lisa Carter's fighters, broke through the alien defenses and headed for the planet's surface. In the ship's cargo hold, 200 human soldiers checked their Crownbreaker weapons one last time. Listen up, Kate told her troops. Those crowns are what hold their whole empire together. Break the crowns, and we break their power. Simple as that. Major Amy Foster, now Kate's second in command, looked out at the crystal city below them. It's beautiful, she said. Almost seems wrong to attack it. Beautiful things built by slave labor, Kate replied. Nothing wrong with tearing that down. Their ship landed in the city's main plaza and immediately came under fire from Zephyrian guards. But these guards were different from the soldiers. The humans had fought before. They seemed confused, uncertain. Many of them were questioning why they were fighting. The Crownbreaker weapons worked even better than Dr. Sarah Williams had hoped. When Kate's soldiers pointed the devices at alien leaders and activated them, the star crowns simply died. The beautiful crystalline structures went dark and cracked, falling from their wearers' heads like broken jewelry. Without their crowns, the Zephyrian commanders lost their connection to the Imperial network. They could no longer coordinate with each other or draw power from the stars. For the first time in their lives, they were alone in their own minds. Commander Steve Brooks led a squad toward the Imperial Palace itself. The building was protected by energy shields and automated defenses, but the humans had learned to overcome such obstacles. "Plant the charges on the shield generators," Steve ordered. "Same plan as always. Hit them where they don't expect it." The explosions that followed brought down barriers that had protected the palace for thousands of years. Human soldiers poured through the gaps, their crownbreakers ready dot in his throne room. Emperor Vexthalin felt his network collapsing around him. One by one, the minds connected to his crown went silent as human weapons destroyed the crowns of his governors and generals. The web of power that had held the empire together for 10 millennia was coming apart. "My lord," General Quintessa said, "we must flee. The humans will be here soon." "No." The emperor stood up from his throne, his star crown blazing with the light of compressed suns. "I am Vexthalin the Eternal. I do not run from insects." When General Kate Phillips and her soldiers burst into the throne room, they found the emperor waiting for them. He stood alone, abandoned by his guards, but still proud and defiant. "You think you have won," he said, his voice echoing off the crystal walls. "You think destroying my empire will bring you peace. But you are wrong. Without us to maintain order, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Chaos will rule where we brought stability." Kate raised her crown-breaker weapon and pointed it at the emperor's magnificent crown. "Maybe, but that chaos will be free chaos. People will make their own mistakes instead of following your orders. You do not understand what you are destroying. I understand enough." Kate pulled the trigger. The electromagnetic pulse hit the emperor's star crown with perfect precision. The ancient artifact, made from the compressed heart of a dead star, cracked down the middle. Light poured out like blood from a wound. Then, with a sound like breaking glass, it fell to pieces on the marble floor. Emperor Vexthalin staggered as 10,000 years of borrowed power left him. His crystal skin turned pale and ordinary. His diamond eyes became dull and confused. For the first time since his youth, he was just a man. "What have you done to me?" he whispered. "Set you free," Kate replied. The news of the Emperor's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light. On 1,000 worlds, people who had lived their entire lives under Zephyrian rule suddenly realized they were free. Some celebrated, some panicked, some simply stood in the streets and cried. The Zephyrian Star Empire did not collapse all at once. Instead, it faded away like a sunset, slowly and then all at once. Ships that had once carried the Emperor's will now sat empty in space, their crews uncertain what to do without orders from the Crown Network. Admiral Jake Morrison established temporary governments on worlds that requested help. But he made it clear that humanity had not fought to replace one empire with another. "We didn't come here to rule you," he told the representatives of dozens of species. "We came here to make sure no one could rule us. Now it's up to all of us to figure out what comes next." In the months that followed, the galaxy began to heal. Former slave worlds formed their own governments. Trade agreements replaced tribute demands. The Zephyrians themselves, freed from the burden of eternal rule, began to rediscover what it meant to be normal people. Emperor Vexthalin, now just Vexthalin, spent his remaining years in a simple house on a quiet world. Sometimes children from the local village would visit him, curious about the strange old man who claimed to have once ruled the stars. He would tell them stories about the old empire, about ships powered by suns and crowns made from starlight. The children thought they were just fairy tales. Perhaps that was for the best. The age of star crowns was over. The age of freedom had begun.